The beeping of the heart monitor was steady, rhythmic, a reminder that I was still here. The IV dripped slowly into my arm as I stared at the hospital ceiling, trying not to think about the pain from my surgery. My body was healing, but my mind was restless. I had been here for 3 days, recovering from a procedure I never wanted but had no choice but to go through. And then my phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Dad. I hesitated before answering. We weren't close, not anymore. I had learned long ago that my father, Greg, only called when he needed something. And I wasn't in the mood to hear whatever excuse he had this time, but something told me to pick up. "Hey, kiddo," he said, his voice too casual. "How are you feeling?" I closed my eyes rare. He never asked how I was. I should have known that meant he was about to ask me for something. "I'm fine," I said flatly. "What's up?" A pause, then the words that sent a chill through my body. "So I used your college fund to settle some debts. It's not like you needed it, right?" I sat up so fast, pain shot through my abdomen. I clutched my side, breath hitching. What my voice came out calmer than I expected, like I was watching this moment happen to someone else. "Yeah, well, things got a little tight, you know how it is." And I figured, "Well, you've already done some college, you're smart. You'll figure it out," he said it. Like it was nothing, like he hadn't just admitted to stealing years of my hard work. I had been saving since I was 16. Scholarships, part-time jobs, tutoring gigs, every dollar carefully tucked away to make sure I could finish school without drowning in debt that money was supposed to pay for my last 2 years. The final stretch before I could get my degree and finally move forward in life, and he had taken it. I felt my fingers tighten around my phone, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. "How much is left?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Another pause. Nothing. It's all gone." I exhaled slowly. My mind was working, calculating, but my voice remained eerily steady. "I see," I said. There was silence on his end, then a chuckle. "That's my girl?" Always practical look. "No point getting upset. What's done is done, right? I mean, it's not like you can get it back, so might as well move on." Move on. I glanced around the hospital room, the sterile walls, the IV in my arm, the bruises on my skin from the needles. The college fund wasn't just about tuition, it was my future, my independence, and he had stolen it casually as if he had borrowed my car, without asking good luck with that. I said simply. He laughed. "See, that's the attitude I knew you'd understand anyway. Got to run meeting some friends for drinks, we'll catch up when you're out, yeah," and then he hung up. I sat there staring at the phone in my hand. The room was suddenly too quiet, the weight of what had just happened sinking in. I should have been crying, should have been panicking, but I wasn't, because I knew. Something my father didn't. I wasn't a little girl anymore, and this time I wasn't going to let him get away with it. I picked up my phone and opened my banking app as expected. The account was empty, zero balance. My father had spent every last cent. But he had forgotten one thing. I had always been careful, always prepared, and while my main account was gone, I had other accounts he didn't know about, a backup plan. Because when you grow up with a father like Greg, you learn early on, never trust, never rely, always prepare. I wasn't going to scream, I wasn't going to beg, but I was going to make damn sure he regretted ever thinking he could steal from me. As I lay back down, staring at the ceiling, the pain from my surgery faded into the background. There was a new fire in my chest. This wasn't over, not even close the moment I got home from the hospital. I didn't waste time. I wasn't going to sit around grieving over what my father had done. That was the old Mia, the one who used to believe that family meant unconditional trust. This new version of me, she knew better. I limped to my desk, still sore from surgery, and opened my laptop. The hospital discharge papers were still in my bag, barely touched, but this was the real priority. First, I logged into my bank account. It was empty, just as I already knew, but I wasn't just checking the balance. I was looking at the withdrawals, the pattern, the timestamps. Each transaction was a small piece of the puzzle. My father had been careful, draining the account bit by bit over several months, just under the threshold that would trigger automatic fraud alerts. Classic Greg. He always knew how to stay just below the radar. I took screenshots of everything, every withdrawal, every transaction. Then I opened my email and pulled up the old scholarship records, the ones that proved I had earned every cent in that account. The next thing I sent an email to my bank requesting an official statement of all activity over the past year because Greg had made one critical mistake. Yes, he was a co-signer on the account, but the money that had been mine. And if there was one thing banks and courts didn't like, it was evidence of financial abuse. I could almost hear his voice in my head. It's just money, kiddo. No need to get all worked up. No, Dad. It wasn't just money, it was my future. And he had no idea what was coming next. I moved on to my remaining savings, my real savings. My father didn't know about my secondary accounts. I had learned to keep secrets early in life. And when I got my first real paycheck as a teenager, I had decided he would never have access to everything. It had been a precaution back then. Now it was my lifeline. I transferred all remaining funds into a new account, one completely in my name at a different bank. Then I changed every password set up two-factor authentication and made sure that there wasn't a single loophole he could exploit. By the time I was done, my finances were completely out of his reach, and that was only the beginning. I knew my father well enough to know he wouldn't stop at this. He was already spending the money he stole. I had no doubt about that. And soon he'd find himself short again, which meant another call, another excuse, another lie. So I waited, and sure enough, he called again. Just 3 days after I got home. "Hey, sweetheart," he said, like nothing had happened. "You settled in, okay? I played along. Yeah, I'm feeling better. What's up?" Well, he sighed dramatically. "Things have been a little tight. That college fund, it wasn't enough to cover everything." I gritted my teeth. The fund, the one he had stolen, had been over $50,000. And somehow, in a matter of weeks, he had already blown through it. I had to keep myself from laughing. He was predictable, and that predictability was exactly what I was counting on. I said, keeping my tone even. "So, what do you need?" There was a slight pause. Then he cleared his throat. "Well, I was thinking, you're always so good with money. You wouldn't happen to have any other accounts, would you? Just something small to help your old man out." And there it was. My father had stolen from me, betrayed me, lied to my face, and now he was already coming back for more. I let the silence stretch, making him sweat finally. I said, "I don't know, Dad. Maybe we should talk about this in person." I could hear the relief in his voice. "That's my girl. Let's sit down, just you and me. No need to get anyone else involved." Right? I smiled, even though he couldn't see me right. I said, "Oh, Dad, you really think I'm going to let you walk away from this?" This wasn't just about the money anymore, it was about consequences, and for the first time in his life, Greg was about to face them. I agreed to meet my father at a quiet cafe in town, not because I wanted to see him, but because I needed to look him in the eye to watch him lie to my face one last time. The moment I walked in, I spotted him right away. Greg always carried himself like he was the most charming man in the room, but today there was a nervous edge to him. His knee bounced under the table, fingers drumming against his coffee cup. I took my time walking over, making him wait. When I sat down, I gave him a polite smile. "So, Dad, what's so urgent?" He chuckled, fidging casualness. "Mia, honey, why so formal? Can't a father have coffee with his daughter?" I tilted my head. "You call me here because you need money." His smile faltered for half a second before he plastered it back on. "I mean, yeah, things are a little tight. I figured since you're so responsible, maybe you have a little set aside." I folded my hands on the table. "You mean like a college fund?" His eyes flickered, but he forced out another laugh. "Sweetheart, don't be like that. I told you what's done is done. No use dwelling on the past. No use dwelling." He had robbed me. And now with that same easy charm, he expected me to hand over even more. I let the silence stretch again. I had learned that silence made him nervous. Finally, I sighed. Dad, I actually do have some money." Saved his entire posture, shifted shoulders, relaxing eyes, lighting up. "That's my girl," he said, reaching across the table as if we were on the same team. "See, I knew you'd understand. Just a little loan. I'll pay you back." Just like he had promised when he drained my college fund. I leaned forward slightly. "I just have one question." He nodded eagerly. "Of course. Anything." I smiled, my voice calm. "Why don't you just use the money from your secret account?" His entire body went still for the first time since I walked in. Greg looked genuinely afraid. I could see his mind racing, scrambling to figure out if I was bluffing, what his laugh was forced. Mia, honey, I don't. I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table screen facing up. I know about the account in your name, the one you didn't think I'd find. His expression twisted into something ugly, but I wasn't done. I know you've been moving money into it for years. I know that while you were borrowing from me, you were stashing money away for yourself, and I know that even after stealing my college fund, you still have enough saved to keep yourself comfortable. I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. So tell me, Dad, why exactly should I be the one helping you? His jaw clenched, and for the first time in my life, I saw something I never expected. Panic Greg had always been good at talking his way out of things. He had convinced people to lend him money, to forgive debts, to turn a blind eye to his behavior, but he had never prepared for this, for me being the one to hold the cards. His voice lowered. How did you find out? I smiled. I had help. My aunt, a lawyer, had helped me track everything down, and my grandmother, his own mother, had been furious when she found out. When I first told her, I expected disappointment. Instead, she had looked me in the eye and said, it's time he learns what it means to face real consequences. And that's exactly what was happening now. Greg's hand clenched around his coffee cup, his mask slipping. Mia, listen. I held up a hand number. You listen. I tapped my phone screen, showing him the open email draft, a draft addressed to my bank, the one detailing his financial abuse. His face turned pale. I kept my voice even. You have two options. One, you pay back every single cent you stole from me. I don't care if it takes years. I want it all back. Greg swallowed. And the second option? I tilted my head. I pressed charges, fraud, theft, financial abuse. And once I report you, the IRS is going to take a very close look at your finances, including that secret account of yours. The color drained from his face because he knew he wasn't just looking at losing money, he was looking at potential prison time. Greg always thought he was untouchable, that he could lie and manipulate his way out of anything, but this time he had finally picked the wrong person to steal from. I picked up my coffee, took a slow sip, and met his eyes. So what's it going to be, Dad, for the first time in his life? Greg had no words, and I had never felt more powerful. Greg didn't answer right away. He just sat there gripping his coffee cup like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. I watched his jaw tighten, his nostrils flare. He was angry, angrier than I had ever seen him, but it wasn't the anger of an innocent man. It was the anger of someone who had just realized he had lost control. You wouldn't do that, he finally said. Voice low, I raised an eyebrow. Wouldn't I? He let out a forced laugh, shaking his head. Mia, sweetheart, this is family. You don't go around threatening your own father. I stared at him, expression blank. You stole my future. You don't get to talk to me about family. The words hit their mark. His smirk faltered, but only for a second. Greg was a survivor. He had spent his whole life talking his way out of problems, and now he was scrambling to regain control. His voice softened, shifting into the fake warmth he always used when he wanted something. Mia, listen, I know you're upset. I get it, but this is going too far. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. Far was stealing from me while I was in the hospital. Far was gambling away my future and pretending like it was no big deal. He started to speak, but I held up a hand. Let me be very clear, I said, my voice steady. I'm done playing your games. I have everything I need to take you down. The only reason I'm giving you a choice is because I'm kind. Don't mistake that. For weakness, the silence between us was thick. Greg looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. The daughter, he had underestimated the girl he thought he could manipulate forever. I let the silence stretch just long enough for the weight of my words to settle. Then I stood up, sliding my phone back into my pocket. You have 1 week, I said. I expect the first payment by then. If I don't get it, I make the call. I picked up my bag, slung it over my shoulder, and walked out without looking back. I didn't sit around waiting for Greg to do the right thing. I knew him too well for that. Instead, I got to work first. I sent copies of all my evidence to my Aunt Sarah. She had already been looking into my options, and now that I had confronted Greg, she was ready to move forward. Smart move, giving him a deadline, she told me over the phone. It forces his hand. He either pays or he panics. I had a feeling it would be the latter next. I made a few calls. My university's financial aid office had already been helpful, but now that I had concrete proof of financial abuse, they were willing to assist even further. They helped me apply for emergency grants, and I was able to secure enough funding to cover at least one semester. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. And then I waited. Greg lasted exactly 5 days before the call started. At first, they were casual day, 5:10, 14 a.m. Hey kiddo, just checking in, hope you're doing okay, ignored. Day 5, 3:42 p.m. Look, Mia, I think we should talk. There's no need to be so drastic about all this. Ignored. Day 6, 9:21 a.m. Okay, this is getting ridiculous. You can't just cut your own father off like this. Ignored by day 7. The desperation finally cracked through. Day 7, 11:56 p.m. Please, Mia, I don't have the money. I can't pay you back. Just give me some time. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. Me time won't, magic ally bring back my money, find a way his. Response was immediate, Greg. You're being heartless. I laughed. Heartless. This was a man who had stolen from his own daughter while she was recovering in a hospital bed. And I was the heartless one. I turned off my phone and went to sleep the next morning. My grandmother called. He showed up at my house last night. She said, her voice sharp with disapproval. Tried to get me to talk to you. I clenched my jaw. What did you say? I told him that he had made his bed, and now he had to lie in it. A warmth spread through my chest. My grandmother had always been the only person Greg feared. He had spent years pushing boundaries with everyone else but her. She was the one line he had never dared to cross until now. He's panicking, she continued. And when Greg panics, he gets sloppy. She wasn't wrong. 2 hours later, I got a text from my cousin Jake. Jake, yo, Uncle Greg just called me. Tried to convince me to co-sign a loan for him. I nearly dropped my phone. Co-sign. A loan. Greg had never been this desperate before. He was running out of options, and he knew it. This wasn't just about my money anymore. He was sinking, and he was trying to drag anyone down with him. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. It was time for the final phase. Greg thought he was good at manipulating people, but now he was about to find out exactly how it felt to be the one trapped with no way out. And I was the one holding the key. Greg was running out of moves, and he knew it. By the end of the week. The desperate calls turned into outright pleading. He was losing control, and for the first time, I think he truly understood what that me. Day 8, 7:32 a.m. Mia, we need to talk. I can't come up with the money that fast. Let's work something out. Ignored. Day 9, 5:47 p.m. Your grandmother turned you against me, didn't she? I always knew she wanted to make me look bad. Laughed and ignored. Day 10, 9:12 p.m. Mia, please, I don't have anywhere to turn, I finally replied. Me, you had options. You chose to steal from me instead. His response came instantly. Greg, it wasn't like that. You don't understand how much pressure I was under me, and yet you had enough to waste my money on gambling and drinking. Greg, I swear I'll fix this. Just give me time. I stared at the message. I could almost hear his voice smooth, practice the same tone he had used my entire life whenever he wanted to escape consequences. But it wouldn't work this time because I was about to close the trap. The next morning, I made my final move. I sent the full documentation to my university, reinforcing my request for additional aid within hours. I got a response this time from a senior administrator. They had reviewed my case and were now offering me an emergency grant to cover my remaining tuition. Step 1, secure my future. Then I forwarded all the proof of my father's financial abuse bank statements. Stolen funds, his messages admitting to it to my Aunt Sarah. She called me immediately. Are you sure you want to go through with this? Yes. She let out a low whistle. All right then, let and burn this to the ground. Step 2, make Greg accountable. The final blow came that evening. I didn't call Greg. I didn't text him instead. I sent the screenshots of his messages and proof of his secret account to our family group chat, and then I let the fire spread. The explosion was immediate. My phone started blowing up with messages, aunts, uncles, cousins, some in disbelief, others furious. Aunt Patricia, he stole from his own daughter, cousin Jake. Didn't he do something similar to Grandma a few years ago? Uncle Ray, I always knew Greg was bad with money, but this is insane within an hour. The family was in full revolt, and Greg, he finally cracked. He called, and this time I picked up. "What the hell did you do?" he demanded, voice shaking with rage. I didn't respond, just let him sit in the silence. He exhaled sharply. "You're ruining me, Mia, do you understand that?" I smiled to myself. "No, Dad, you ruined yourself, you don't get it." Head. They're turning against me. My own family is cutting me off. I shrugged. Sounds like consequences. His breath was heavy on the line. "Mia, please, this is my life. You're destroying my fingers." Tightened around my phone. I thought about all the times he had stolen from me, lied to me, used me. And then I thought about the last time I had trusted him. I had been lying in a hospital bed when he stole my future out from under me. And now he wanted mercy. "You know what's funny, Dad?" I said. Voice calm. "That's exactly how I felt when you emptied my account." Silence. He had no comeback this time, no excuses left. I took a slow breath. "You made your bed now. Lie in it." And then I hung up. Greg tried to fight back, first. He went to my grandmother, hoping for sympathy. She turned him away. Then he tried convincing my mother to mediate. She laughed in his face. Desperate, he attempted to gaslight. The family spinning the story into how I had exaggerated everything, but the proof I had sent was undeniable. Every lie he told was countered with receipts within days, had lost all financial support from the family. By the end of the week, my Aunt Sarah had filed a formal demand letter. If he didn't start paying me back, we would take legal action. I heard from my grandmother that he was scrambling.